Temos aqui alguém já.
Bom,
Não.
estamos em direto, temos 13 visitantes em simultâneo.
Certo.
We are live. Just let me change it here. Let's do it.
So, hey everyone. Welcome back to our webinar. This is our second webinar that we've been doing since we started to move all of our get-togethers online due to the COVID state. We had a really good feedback since last time, and we're here for more, like we promised. And today, besides my lovely co-partners Anésio and Luis, we also have three other guests. We have Eduardo Acquarone, we have João Monsanto, and Paulo Trancoso. Eduardo is someone who's been working on transmedia and arts. He's also very connected to TV and journalism. He's a PhD student at ISCTE. João is the CEO of LarM Publicidade, a company that has been working more and more into AR experiences. And Paulo Trancoso is the director for Academia of Cinema. Apologies if I said something wrong. Can always fix it later, but I think I nailed it. So we're gonna start this webinar that currently today we decided to target transmedia experiences. So what are transmedia experiences? Just throwing the ball here. So we want to sell experiences by telling or sharing a story, something that resonates with us humans, because we've been storytellers and story listeners ever since we started to gather around campfires and get together with our tribe members or whatever. And one of the great things about stories is we've managed to get stories from the ancient Greece without any sort of marketing. So we get it nowadays, thousands and thousands of years after they were initially told. So this got to mean something. There's got to be a meaning to all this storytelling thing. So I gotta probably pass along the ball to one of our guests, Eduardo, if you'd like to start and give us some thoughts over this subject.
Sure. Hi. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm gonna do like a brief, like 20 minutes presentation about how I see the new storytelling made today. I'm a researcher of immersive storytelling. So let me just try to share my screen. Okay. I hope you can see my screen now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to start talking about what is happening today with the coronavirus and everything that we've been going through all over the world. And I'll start with this story from the New York Times. You know, why Zoom is terrible, and by Zoom it can be all the other tools that we are using to communicate today. Well, first of all, it's very nice that we can get together using those tools. But as you know, we humans, we need facial expressions to communicate properly. And it's very, very hard to do this. Like right now, I'm just looking at my screen. I have notes. I have to check if there are messages. There's no feedback. So in a way, it's very hard to do a presentation like this. But I think that we are going to start to use Zoom and those other tools in a different way. So we're not going to try to mimic reality. We're going to use them much more creative. So I'm going to start to show a few of those examples of how to use very creative those tools that we have. I'm going to start with this website. It's only a website, and it seems like a website for like a travel destinations website, which is very strange for our times, right? When you see Escape to Alaska or Escape to Havana or to Rio, but actually it's a website for a bookstore, and they're selling books. They're selling books that talk about travel, talk about cities. So this one is about Rio de Janeiro, and in the website you have a map where you can actually travel to all of those places through books. And I thought that was very clever, because that's the actual bookstore. It's in Dallas, Texas, and they have a very nice venue to host meetings, and they also have a bar. So how do you translate that experience to the digital experience? And they haven't tried to mimic what they had. They actually did something different. I think that's very interesting. So the same thing happened with that theater company from I think from St. Paul, Minnesota, in the States. They had the whole play planned, and then came COVID, so they couldn't perform the play. So they decided to do everything using Zoom. So I'm going to play a little clip of 1 minute of how the play is happening, and they have recorded everything in real time. I know that maybe the audio is not very good, but I think you can have an idea of what happens.
The clock outside strikes 6. We are safe, the last word has passed.
Rolling on the spectator season. Margaret puts them behind her back. Mrs. Fontaine goes to the restroom. I first to the WC.
6 o'clock, Peter. School is over. Does anyone see my shoes?
Your shoes?
You've taken them back as you do.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You are going to be sorry.
Oh, am I?
We tried to get the shoes from Anna, but she doesn't have them.
Margaret does. Margaret has the shoes, Anna.
Your shoes are.
So I think that's amazing how you can connect with the actors, and when somebody leaves the stage, they just turn off the cameras. So it's just a new way of using Zoom, and actually they've done more of the same with Parks and Recreation, which is a very famous sitcom in the US, and they decided to do a special comeback show just using Zoom. So this is a little bit more professional, but also was recorded at the actor's home using the same technology that we were using today.
Leslie, I see you are contacting me again.
This is the system, Ron. 7 p.m. phone tree. I call someone and then they call someone else, and we keep doing it until everyone has been reached. This is the system. You got a better system?
Yes, we talk far less than that. Or we just send each other a photo of ourselves holding up today's newspaper to prove we're okay.
It's impossible to get everyone on the phone at the same time, you know? And talking is important, Ron. We have to look out for our mental and emotional health.
This is the only mental health I need.
What are you doing? Are you okay?
Okay, so it's a little bit more professional. It was broadcasted on NBC. They have advertising and better quality, but basically, they're just using Zoom with actors at their home. I think that's amazing. Another thing that I would like to talk a little bit about is how some places and cities are trying to create digital twins of people, digital people, but also of digital cities. And we're just starting to see how that plays. This is a picture for the gamers. It's a picture from Assassin's Creed Unity, a game that was launched in 2014, and it's set during the French Revolution. So that's why they have, Ubisoft, the Canadian company, they have decided to recreate the Notre Dame Cathedral. So you can actually play the game inside that. And they've done a wonderful job. And when in 2019 the fire almost destroyed the cathedral, you had a digital copy of the cathedral. So now what they're doing is, and unfortunately I cannot play this video right now because it's in 360 and doesn't work here, but now you can actually do a virtual tour inside the cathedral. And to me, those kinds of video, the volumetric and 3D capture, it's actually a new platform. And you can do whatever you want with them. You can use that for news, you can use that for advertising, you can use that for a number of different things when we have digital twins of cities. And that's actually what started to happen in Helsinki, Finland. They've been doing this project for the last 5 years. And in the last 3 years, 10 people have designed the downtown area of Helsinki for the full time, and that's the result. They just had like a concert in the digital city, so people can gather and they can go to their favorite places in a digital copy. So I think to me it actually opens up, you know, brand new possibilities of storytelling when you have those kind of resources, and as you can see the quality, it's very detailed, it's very good. So you can set up a bunch of stories there. So the bulk of the work is already done. So I think it's amazing. And another thing that I think you can work with is creativity. The Faroe Islands, they have stopped tourism because of COVID. So they decided to do a very interactive tour of the island. So you can actually go to your smartphone and you can actually be the hands and the feet of some people that are there. I'll just play this a little bit for you to understand what's going on. Okay,
we have a lot of extra time on our hands. So we thought that we would give those of you who couldn't visit as planned and everyone else a chance to visit the Faroe Islands through us. We will be fitted with a camera and give everyone access to control us using their mobile phone. When you press forward, we move forward. When you press left, we turn left. And when you press jump, well, we jump. Each trip will begin in a new location, and as a virtual tourist, you can ride, sail, and even control a helicopter. So you can literally sit at home and control a helicopter in the Faroe Islands. Where we end up is up to you, as long as you keep us out of harm's way. You can take a free virtual trip at visitfaroeislands.com or follow our adventures on Facebook and Instagram Live. Now that we don't have any,
you can see that you don't actually need so much technology to do that. You need to create new ways to tell the story, and I think that's amazing. And I'm very anxious to see what's going to happen in Denmark when the football returns. As everybody know, we cannot have the crowds anymore, and maybe for a few months, maybe a little bit more. So they have joined with Zoom to have those virtual grandstands. So you're gonna watch the game live, and they're gonna have the screens just by the field, and the players can when they score a goal, they can commemorate with everybody. I think it's gonna be a nice way to see how far advanced we are with technology. So those are new ways of telling stories today during COVID. So I'm gonna just move very quickly through news, what's happening today with the news industry. So that's probably the most important story that we had in the COVID, the Washington Post story that actually created the expression flatten the curve. And that was the inspiration for Minecraft. And Minecraft has created a simulator that educates players about the impact of a pandemic, its effects on healthcare services, and also how social measures can mitigate it. So it's a news story getting into something like Minecraft. I think that's also a very interesting way of handling reality. Another thing that's happening, and we're just going to go back a little bit in time to 2018, that was after the game Belgium and Brazil lost. And the Belgian TV decided to interview Hazard, one of the main players of Belgium, and Hazard was inside the locker room in Russia, and he was kind of teletransported to the TV studio in I think it was in Brussels, I think. So, and it was a trick, of course, but it was with like a 3D volumetric way. Sometimes you can see the camera moves and you see the player, it has volume. So it's an amazing way of finding ways to tell stories. I'm just gonna go a little bit further and show a clip of a project from NBC. They have this project called Left Field. It's on YouTube basically, and they have used the headsets and the controllers of VR to create graphics to do videos. So it's a very clever way to mix VR into video, and people that they don't have the headsets yet, they can actually feel like how it is to be inside a VR experience, and that's also very interesting. And also in the US, CBS has started a new daily show mixing cartoons and news. And when the project was launched in January 2020, I was very worried, how are they going to mix when the news are bad? And I'm going to show a little clip to see that they have used a little bit of humor, but they are telling stories today with cartoons. Okay, let me just put the audio.
Doctors to describe it, and if it stays lives, that's a beautiful thing. I think history will judge who's right on this debate, but I'd bet on President Trump.
Attention viewers, I am Peter Navarro and I've come from the future, the fall of 2020, to warn you that history has spoken and it is not real. Current day Peter Navarro has no idea what he's talking about. He's not a doctor, he's pretty much just a guy. Dearest viewers, I am Peter Navarro and I've come from further in the future, December.
So I think that everything that we have as rules, we are just kind of rewriting those rules. I'm going to talk a little bit about augmented reality now, and I saw this project both in London and in Paris. People are writing on the pavements with chalk the name of the plants. So this is augmented reality. It's a way of doing augmented reality without technology, but it's very effective. So when you put technology, what happens? And then you go to the New York Times, which has been experimenting with AR for the last maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And they've done a simulation of social distancing, how it looks like. So if you go to the website, you can see a very nice graphic like this, where you can kind of just imagine yourself and what 3 feet means and what 6 feet means. But also, if you are using the app, you can actually project that 6 feet anywhere you go. So if you go to the supermarket, just like in the picture, you can see if people are too close or if you're okay. So that's a very interesting way of using AR to solve like a current problem that we have. I'm just gonna finish my presentation with 3 projects that I think are very advanced in narratives. The first one is called The Enemy, and it puts the viewer either using a headset or a mobile phone between 2 soldiers that fight in different sides. So you can hear their stories, and maybe you realize those people are not so different after all. So I'm just going to play a little bit for you to understand the project.
The project is rooted in my experience as a war photographer, going from one side of the front line to the other, and finding that the fighters' dreams, hopes, and nightmares are often more similar than they are different. So there is a bigger story than the war itself, and this is the one I want to explore and share. For the enemy, I am using the latest technologies in virtual and augmented realities, so you can engage directly with the combatants and meet them, hear them, and feel them the way I did.
That's a very powerful VR and AR project for mobile. And now we go to Terminal 3. Terminal 3 is a project that puts the viewer in a very different position. You have to interview a hologram to decide that if the hologram can get access into the United States. I'll just play also a little clip of this amazing project.
Cultural augmentation is when you can bring a hologram of a person in a space that they wouldn't be able to inhabit in real life. It challenges people by forcing them to share presence with ideologies and humans that they otherwise wouldn't cross paths with.
At OneRec, our work is focused on using augmented reality to bridge the divides caused by physical barriers such as walls and borders.
In our upcoming project Terminal 3, the viewer steps into the shoes of a US customs officer to interrogate a hologram of someone who appears to be a Muslim.
Terminal 3 sits in a very interesting space between fiction and non-fiction. All these holograms are very real people, very real stories that we're trying to tell in this context of a surreal interrogation. In an uncanny way, these holograms do have a presence in the room.
We capture these interviews as 3D volumetric holograms that then the viewer can experience using the Microsoft HoloLens. We use DepthKit as our capture technology to allow us to shoot volumetric video using a DSLR calibrated to a depth sensor.
The most fascinating part of the project is that the viewer can actually use their own voice to ask holograms questions with answers that are pre-recorded. Each hologram's story is told using a complex branching narrative that the viewer can navigate through.
We give the viewer a lot of agency in terms of the narrative. You can ask the holograms questions like if they've been associated with the Taliban, or you can ask intimate questions like, what's your relationship with the moon?
Okay, so just imagine talking to holograms to decide if they can come into the US. That's very powerful. That's my last project that I'm going to show today. And it's a project called Dimensions in Testimony. And they have interviewed dozens of Holocaust survivors, and they have used a volumetric studio to do that. And now viewers can talk to them. When the project started, it was shown mainly in museums, and you can see the engagement rates and the emotional and the inspiration that the crowd and the public gets from that experience is very, very high. And now they're moving the project to classrooms. So they're trying to get a new audience and a new public with the use of screen, but I think it's a very fun way of talking to people and a very important way of bringing a subject like the Holocaust to schools. I'll just show you this very short clip.
My name is Pinchas Guter. I will answer any questions you might have for me.
How old were you when the war ended?
I was between the ages of 13 and 14 when the war ended in 1945.
Do you remember any songs from your youth?
This is a lullaby that my mother used to sing to me, and I still remember it. It's in Polish. Jadą dzieci, jadą drogą, siostrzyczka i brat, i nawidzić się nie mogą, jaki piękny świat.
So when you start to talk to holograms and you ask questions and you know he answers back, you kind of forget you're talking to a video or to a recording, and you feel that you know it's a real person, and that's where the magic happens. I know I've talked about many things and many projects, so I'll just leave here my contacts and also the link of this presentation if anybody wants to go a little bit deeper. So thank you very much. Let me stop let me see, how can I stop sharing my screen? Just 1 second. Okay.
Great stuff, Eduardo. Thanks for the presentation. It was really nice.
Thank you.
There are a few things that I recognize there, especially this working on video games. Ubisoft, they've been doing it. I think they've been doing it ever since they started, when they, ever since the first instance of the IP, when they tried to recreate entire cities from the medieval age, like Damascus and cities like that. And nowadays, what you've just mentioned is also a selling point, because on Origins, and I know this, I have some insight that one of the art directors is a good friend of mine. And they started working directly with historians and archaeologists, and they've represented the interior of the pyramids with what we believe to be how they were, the colors. Everything was done with such amazing detail that the goal was, if you go inside a pyramid or inside any point of interest in a game, it's the same thing as it would have been back then. And they even launched a separate game mode where you just go there and do a tour of the pyramids. So that's pretty amazing. There was a discussion on our live chat saying that João wrote, writing the name of a plan on the sidewalk is reality, not augmented reality, which I tend to not entirely agree, because it doesn't exist by itself. And if you're adding new content, it's meta information on its own context. So probably it's a form of augmented reality. But tell us, what do you think?
No, of course it's reality because it's there. But I just read that it's actually illegal to do that in Paris and in London. But to me, that shows that there's a need for meta information. So it has the same logic as the augmented reality information. I was just playing with the real thing and with the digital thing. So.
Okay, cool. But still, it's a very curious thing, and probably subject to a lot of discussion of what is exactly augmented reality, and when does a reality stops being reality by itself and becomes augmented reality. Was this something you wrote in your book, Luis?
I was just expecting that to come here. So yeah, absolutely. So augmented reality is overall, it's pretty much when we overlay digital content and digital objects on top of our physical world. And by doing that, we're actually not just overlaying stuff. We are changing its context. So if, for instance, in the table that I have over here, if I overlay my, for instance, if I overlay the blueprint of my house on top of the table that I have in front of me, so the table that I usually use to eat or that I usually use to read, will be used for me to discuss the improvements that I want in my house with my architect, for instance, or with my projectist. So in that sense, it's something that changed the meaning of that table for me. So overall, in more than the technology underlying itself, just the fact that we are changing the way that we are seeing and using the objects, the physical objects, by means of actually overlaying digital content in itself is augmented reality.
Cool. Thank you for that. And by the way, do you want to tell everyone about your book?
Well, thank you very much. Well, actually, because it's been like 2 years and a half. So, yeah, 2 years and a half passed. But it's been so, it's been so much time and so many things happen meantime that right now I have this plan of during this year to launch a new edition where we'll be focused on delivering pretty much other stuff. I'm sorry, but I have here a 6-year-old trying to climb me, so I'm now going to try and sort that issue. Just a minute.
Nice. It's wonderful to see how during this time we've become more human, and suddenly, it's just normal. Children and everyone else, like, hey, here's the fellow. He's now being immortalized because as long as there's internet, he'll be there.
Yeah.
And well, now we're 7.
Okay.
Well, but this is no.
Okay. So moving on, João, do you wanna skip ahead and show us what you have?
Okay. Thank you, Tiago. Thank you all. It's a very nice meeting. Very good presentation, Eduardo. I love it. It's just a very huge examples of how in 3 months everything changes so fast and make us to enter in new worlds, in new ideas, and getting the same thing, the same people, the same actors, the same the same resources, and make incredible things when we cannot. It's really like how the human can adapt it to the new situation. So it was incredible examples, Eduardo. Thank you very much. I take note of where can I get it so to see it better. And thank you all that are listening, and thank you for the patience you will have to have with my English. So first of all, let's go and forgive me. And the people who knows me, I'm just in love. I'm a passion by augmented reality. It's really my space where I really feel like water, like fish in the water. But basically, I think that augmented reality, virtual reality, now Zoom or meeting reality are really new media. I work a lot in media agencies and so on. And it's not a question, sometimes we say transmedia is a question of leaving some media and starting another one instead. And I think it's not really that. It's new media are really new ways of communication. And we can see that by example. If you have cinema, we use now to say that virtual reality will be the new cinema. I don't think so. I think cinema is a collective. It's a collective way of being together and watching something together. And really, virtual reality is it's a lonely watching things, a lonely way for watching things. It's cinema is contemplative. It's really, you watch things and you feel like feelings that really are from and from inside of you. And virtual reality is really action, proactivity, and another way of being together, immersive way of things. And so that's an important thing. And what we must think is that from one moment to the other, we have really new media for hang on and to watch carefully, and it is exciting to making something that it's almost from zero. People that are making, and we saw in Cannes the film with virtual reality, and other things that we really are starting one thing that was zero, and now we can do everything because everything is open to be done. And sorry, my English is still the same.
and that's really a huge challenge. And another thing that it's important is that we can use new ways of thinking. Mixed media is a very interesting thing. I remember that when I was young, people always used to heard the report, the soccer report, the football report, use the small radios. I don't know if you remember. Perhaps most of the audience doesn't remember. We have small reports, and really everybody wants to hear the report, the football report, with that small radio. And the situation was so intense, so important, that people go to the football match itself, real, and take the small. This is augmented reality. It's really making the sound instead of watching the football play in the stadium, and at the same time hearing what is going to happen, something that you are seeing at the same time, things that you cannot see, and information that comes by yourself. And the same thing to the what happens when you. My grandfather used to watch the football in television, and then he used the same way. He used the radio to listen to the report. So that's one thing that today that we must stay at home, create or give some power. This transmedia gives some power to the thing. I'm going to show you after some examples from what you can do with augmented reality at home, because the things that people say is that, okay, at home you don't have reality. Your reality, you know it always, but it's not true. You can bring reality to your house and to your home and to anywhere, and that's one thing that I'll show you after. And but basically, before I show some examples, not compared to the international ones, it's one step ahead. But there are single things that can make our life better and easier and more interesting every day, and that creates new media. And the challenge again is to have the ability to take the subject and project it in this new media. Use these things and make wonderful things that you can do in-house or outdoor, depending on the things. But okay, I'm going to share now my my screen, my PC screen, and let's see if it's okay. And it works earlier. Okay, are you seeing the? Okay.
Not yet.
You are not seeing the screen?
No, not yet.
Okay,
No.
let's try again. Okay, sharing. Wait just a second. Full screen. Okay, now. Fantastic.
It's loading.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry for these moments. Okay. One of the things that when we talk about augmented reality, we say that we must be somewhere. Okay. It's easier to get the map or to locate things. So you can have all kind of maps, and you can be in your home or outdoor. It's just getting like a cinema room. Every media has to have a place. And so the first thing that augmented reality can bring you in 2D or 3D is really to create a place where we are going to communicate, to have communication. And then you get 2 or 3D characters created, or actors, and create and when it's done, it's like really you can have everything. So you have a place, and you have actors, you have pictures. Then can be your relationship with this world. Okay, it can be all kind that your imagination can get it, and that's the second thing, like a storytelling. First you have a place, then you have characters, and in third place, okay, you must create, and that's one thing that reality can bring to you in the storytelling, is create environments. Okay. Old ones, reconstructions, everything. And this is really a new media. Have things like you have a place, a way of moving, and okay, this is just how you can say it. It's creating a fairy tale, a storytelling, and you can do it anywhere. So now I'm going to change it. Just a minute. Okay. Fantastic. Now I'm going to put another thing and to show you how we can transform all this potential in other things. Okay, I'm going to put it again. Do you know, someday will be really the top cracks in technology, in Zoom technology, streaming technology, and everything that we really are now. Just okay. Again. Okay. Now we have. Imagine that you are in your TV screen, in your PC screen, like we are here, and we are. Are you watching now or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you have universe, things that you can target and really live and make alternatives, like things like, okay, like this. Okay, you can show experience. Okay, I'm going to show you some examples where you can have stories, you can have everything. So when we are in this confinement at home, in COVID-19, you can, okay, it's not stoppable to make TV, to make series, to make news with augmented reality. It's a case that I would love to show you as transmedia subject in storytelling. And really, it's a absolutely different experience that any other that you can imagine. The real way that you already seen, and now 2 or 3 more examples. Okay, this is a local folk, but what I will really want to show you, I'm going to see you again. Okay, let's press. Okay, this is just different. You know, different experience you can make advertising, make everything at home with this new media. This one I'll show because this is really an example that you can make show business into, in this case, a PC screen. It can be everything. This was made in the real stage for a presentation, and notice how you can move it on the screen. So, okay. Wait just a second, just to. Okay. I want to bring you with these some examples that things that are really used and make. This is a new media. This is a way. It's not cinema transformed in reality or in augmented reality. No, it's a new media, as virtual reality is a new media. What we have is a group of new media that really are at this disposition of good creation of contents. So what I normally say is that what is really important is the quality, what you want to show to someone, the story you want to tell. Then you'll get the best tool, augmented reality, cinema, media, outdoor, radio, wherever, that really brings the better result to what the thing that you want to tell and how the other people will love to listen. Okay, I'm not going to take more time. Thank you very much, and be welcome. I'm at your disposition for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's just say that at the end of all the presentations, we'll have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, especially to those who are watching us live right now on a chat, you can save your questions for the end, and we'll have a room for a few. So thank you, João, for showing us so many examples. I've seen a few of them I already knew, some I don't. What do you think, based on what you've just shown us, are the I don't like to say the greatest, but the biggest challenges for the next stage of augmenting your business? So right now, this is pretty much what you've been doing and what you've been working on, and some other examples. But what do you think it's next? What do you think it's next, and not in the future, but like in a few months? What do you think currently exists that in a few months probably doesn't exist?
Okay, that's a good question. Let me tell you just one or two things about what I think. First, this distance, social distance, will maintain. Not even if it's not necessary. I think we are so traumatized with everything that happens that we feel like we have to stay out. So medias that go together, like cinema and even television in some cases, collecting in some public places, will be far away from what you think. But there's one thing that is very funny. It's when we cannot go to the places must come to us, or we must go to the places with several. That's the reason. So what do I think that is going to happen? Things like the Norway, I think the Norway example that Eduardo has done, it's incredible because it's a way to get people there without being there, and without being a traditional film where you don't feel the things, you don't move the things. So that's one way. The other way is with augmented reality, because augmented reality is incredible. You can go to a museum and make all the museum without anyone. You don't need a guide. You can see everything. The painters speak. Everyone. We can have a guide without having no one near you, and don't need to touch anything. So this will be not the future, but in the few months, as you asked me, Tiago, in the few months you'll be absolutely will grow up incredibly with this. And the Zoom solution and the screen solution and the meetings with virtual as we saw it in Laval with Virbela and other things, environment with VR will be the next months will grow exponential. Someone said to me that Zoom, the coating of Zoom in the stock actions has grown up so much more than every plane companies in the world in just a few months. So it's really changing, and the challenge is for For cinema, by example, and I would love to hear Paul about this, is how we are going to make films without join people. So the challenges are incredible and no stopping. I don't know if I answer you, Tiago. I don't have a crystal ball to see the future, but okay, this says small future. I think that we have our mobile phone and go walking on the streets, have fun with our mobile phone. Okay.
I have one question, João, Tiago, if you allow me.
Sure.
João, how Portuguese are accepting this new technology? I've seen that you are developing a lot of AR content mainly for tourism and to demonstrate history and to show everything around Portugal. But how are the Portuguese using it? Do you feel any resistance? Do you feel that we, mainly as a association, do we need to do something more to make it more easier for not only for our associates but for everybody to understand better the technology?
Nancy, thank you for your question. It's really a very, very important question. First of all, people, let me see, the last 3 months changed all the relation people with technology. So I believe that are going to accept, because it's a need, they are going to accept to use things that already was in their mobile, their cellulars before, but they never try it, like augmented reality or even virtual reality in most of the case. So what I think first is that I hope that people now accede much more to and accept much more to augmented and virtual reality as a normal instrument, as a tool for making better every day of his life. So it's not a thing to make better, worse, but better. That's one thing. Another thing that I hope from VR Association, Vrara, is that I always said to Luis, and he remembers very well, that the most important thing in Vrara was not we speak with each other, and I love it, and it's very useful and very helpful, but mailing tell to people how does this thing that augmented and virtual reality can be good to them. And I'm an advertising man, that is essential. And I think we are, Vrava will be at the future a very important association when people really understand they have new media like TV, like radio, like outdoor, and they have augmented reality and virtual reality and other realities in a simple cell phone. So please, I'm with you to make people understand this.
Thank you.
Okay,
great stuff, João. Thank you. So I think we can. In a moment ago, you gave us an excellent segue to move on to our next guest, Paulo. And I'd like to start the discussion here by asking Paulo, what do you think, given the presentations of our previous guests, what do you think is the current state of transmedia, and how does that correlate to the cinema industry, both here in Portugal and to the world?
Paulo, you need to unmute your microphone. Sorry.
I hope this is okay now.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you to invite me. As you know, the Academy, the Portuguese Film Academy, see that new techniques with some interesting, and in our events we try to also accompany all this situation. I have 2 or 3 things to eventually to tell you. One is, you know, in February we have the Oscars, and is in the big room, but there are many countries who don't have yet these prizes, Portugal included. We are constructing the scenario for Casino Estoril, and then we must stop everything with this COVID thing. And but not only as German, Italy, Ukrainian, and it's very interesting the challenge how to do a prize like this in this situation, the prizes of the academies. And the Germans, for example, have done. I'm sorry to have not here the things to show you, but they think to do it in a big studio with virtual sceneries and only one presenter, and with the connection through these new technologies with everybody who are nominated for the prizes. And it's the Italians have done also, but not with this situation in a studio, but normal studio. But I don't know if you could see, it's difficult. Perhaps I could show, for example, this is a German one. I don't know if you could see something, but there are screens, virtual screens in the studio, and the people and the presenter go inside and presented each category in connection with the new technology of connection, like Zoom, with all the 100 nominated. It's a very very nice technology event for these situations. How they achieved to do this thing. I have the links I could send to you if they have the curiosity to see. It's in German, wouldn't help very much, but we could see the way they go in the studio with these scenarios, virtual scenarios, and with scenarios we are projecting the screens in the films that we are discussing. That is one thing. The Ukrainian and the Italian do the same, and we, with our Sofia in Portugal, we are thinking what to do. We connecting with the Portuguese television, but with difficulty because the technology, it must be very good to do an achievement like that. And we are thinking to do in the beginning of September with a mix of some categories will be in Casino Estoril and the others will be connected online. And it's a mixed technology to do it the prizes. That is one thing. The other is the situations of the cinemas. The movie theaters are closed. And then we see the fragility of the industry. The film stopped, the production stopped everything. And and the streaming goes and everybody see the streamings. And we have the movie theaters closed and the streaming goes up because, and then is the problem. Why the movie theaters don't develop new technologies? Why don't mix new technologies? And then it's important to know why not the VR are mixed. We know that there are some directors, for example, Spielberg and the other ones, even Disney, in the way to shoot it, the Lion, as you know, the Lion King, but as an accessory, not inside the film, and in a way that the spectator could see the film in VR and could even the chairs must move and everything. That is we lived in the movie theaters some old solutions still. For example, the projections. You know, the projection are with the projector, not the ecran digitally transformed. As we know, in the future we have the ecran, the screen will be digitally. That is a situation that, and now with this crisis, with the streaming having more people and the room and the cinemas with this situation, it is a big way to think how could be the future inside the room of the cinema. And it's of course, it's not only in the cinemas, it's a big way to think many things in our lives, but of course in cinema too, in the movie theaters. You know, the big chain of cinemas in the States is out. They go in a crisis, they close doors forever. It is a big chain. And the others are in the way, because we must think how could be the movie theaters of the future. And this is a situation that must be a combination of the techniques we have for to shoot the films also, but adapted to a new theaters, adapting to new ways to see films. If not, they lose it for the streaming, for other and for other means, of course. And for that, it's a very a point of to think to everybody connected with the cinemas and with the cinema industry, to ask who could be the future. And you know, we know that in the end of the month they will open only when 1/3 or one middle of the people inside, and we don't know yet who could go to the cinemas and how they run. It is a big crisis, but it's in that crisis that we have the opportunity to think together how could be the future. And then for this, it's very important to listen everybody and the experience that are in the middle to think for the future is
true.
Paulo, I remember that one requirement for the movies to get to the Oscar Awards is that they had to pass at least for a small amount of time in some physical theaters in the US. And I've read yesterday that the American Academy has changed this year requirements, and in the next year streaming movies will be allowed to be at the ceremony with another films. Do you think that this is something that has came to change, or is it just for this year?
They say in his paper that it's only for this year, but we don't know, because we don't know yet the situation that we live. Then it's for 1 year, it's for 2 years, and we don't know still.
But you think that this is? Do you think that this is something that, as you were saying, that's something that it's a mindset that we have to change, because we've seen that Netflix, for example, I'm not sure if it's a good example, but they have a large amount of movies in production and a lot of things coming. And not only Netflix, we've seen a lot of studios producing movies, and that for streaming only. Do you think that those kind of mindsets coming to change? Do you think it's a point of break of what we had and what we are going to have in the future?
No, I think that in the future, the films going directly to streaming will have also prizes, perhaps a collateral prizes, but it's possible, certainly, because the things are changing very, very quickly now. And it's all the academies are also accepting the films who go directly to the streaming. Not only the American one, also the European ones, and also the Spanish, also the Portuguese, but we don't have cases here. Okay. But okay, we will accept if there are. Okay, but it's even in all the ways that the development of these projects that are stopped. For example, the Americans stopped until July. I suppose distribution of the films now. At the 17th of July comes the first one. But until now, as for example, we are in the Portuguese Academy hoping that the Portuguese films who are not is premiere in this month could go now in June before the coming the American ones. And also it's all these are in it's interesting. For example, this is only a small thing, but the Federation of the Academies of Ibero-America have done a small film with actors of each of the academies, and they have done the film in each. Joaquim de Almeida have done his film in his house, and Maria João Bastos, and then they go to Argentina, and they connected and do a film that thanking the people who are in home seeing the films. And also we have done one with the Portuguese films and thanking to stay home and see Portuguese movies and see Portuguese series. But it's we are in between some revolution that we don't see yet very well the way, but we are discussing.
Yeah, it was very nice. And I'm asking this because thinking about the transmedia subject, we can use, as the studios will have to invest a little bit less or much less in physical theaters, that they could use those budgets to invest more in immersive solutions, in VR, AR, and everything that could complement the history and make more transmedia productions.
Yeah.
That's a good point for this.
I'm gonna pick up on the transmedia subject and actually think about an example that I saw. It was presented in 2016 for the event in Queensland, in Brisbane, and it is something called She's Not There. So She's Not There, it's actually a crossover between a musical, a theater piece, and a movie and VR. So what happens is we have this actress who plays the role of a burlesque singer, and she has been recorded using mocap technology, and so that she could give life to a 3D character. And when you actually go to the theater, what you see is an empty stage, except for a small podium in the middle, and there's a camera lying on the stage. And when the show starts, there's the director that picks up the camera and is filming, but there's nothing there. He's actually pointing to the point in the middle of the podium. But there's a system that recognizes the position of the camera and is showing a movie with the 3D character of the performer. So basically, what's happening here, it's sort of a live action direction of someone showing a movie in real time, but the actress actually she's not there, but the director's giving the angles and showing the way to everyone else to watch the performance. Do you think, Paul, that we are in a position where we will be seeing more and more of these experiments in cinema?
No, I think yes, because we have some examples of experiences in the States, and also it's important to have the opportunity to do it some shorts films to begin to discuss all the technique and the way to do it, because it's for example, we have Avanca is a festival here in Portugal, in middle of Portugal. We have suggest to some films in VR. but there are not enough films. The people don't do it enough still. And even they are thinking to offer some techniques, some cameras, some things to the people do it, because it's important to easy the situations to produce the films. And then it's perhaps it's interesting to think to have some ways to that the cameras and in some situations to develop some projects. Of course, we even in the Academy we are discussing that with the bank and with others, that in Portugal. But of course, I think in this moment there are many people thinking if there this big chains of cinemas go to falência. Falência is bankruptcy, right. They must study other ways to have the films with new techniques and new ways. And you could contact much more this experience that I saw that there are done some, but not even one feature film. When the first feature film in VR? That is the question. When the first? A long feature.
I kind of relate to that. That there's still the stigma that full features are take too much time for VR. I don't believe in that, but a lot of people still have second thoughts because they think that probably the audience is still not ready to be like to have a headset for 90 minutes watching a full feature movie. But I strongly believe that ever since we began to have devices like the Quest that are not only portable but way more comfortable than the previous iterations, and we will start to have more and more of those.
Yeah. Just to add my 2 cents on the transmedia talk, because actually going to the comments on YouTube, I found someone actually talking a bit about what. So Bruno was saying, I learned transmedia with a group of MIT, a little curious, do people mismatch it with cross-media narrative in different platforms? So pretty much how we understand, and I think pretty much all of us understand transmedia, is the ability to leverage several platforms to tell a unique story. So for instance, if I have, for instance, you have Star Wars, right? Yeah, and you have Star Wars, it's probably the biggest movie franchise of all times. I don't know, maybe. But that said, well, you have so many other episodes that run on TV, that run on your PlayStation. And you get to know a bit more of the story, of the backdrop of so many other characters on those other media. And that allows you to actually connect much more with the story, with the characters, and then understand at a totally different view or with much more detail why that character did that in that specific storyline. So in that sense, I guess that virtual reality and augmented reality can add a lot to that, not just due to the fact that they can create by itself meaningful storylines that can be explored in different ways. So for instance, exploring a storyline using a virtual reality headset is something that is very, very different from anything else, because it's a very dedicated experience, it's immersive. So we are 360 checking everything. So all of our experience is very, very different. And again, it's also being built by us, users. At the same time, for instance, when we're talking about augmented reality storytelling, then like, for instance, what João said, you can go around and you can see and interact with people that, well, with actors that were pre-recorded or that are even streaming when you have 5G, and they will be interacting with you, and then you will need to decide where you want to go. So if you want to go with character A or character B, and then you will be walking to follow up on your story. And that's actually a cool thing. So I think that one of the cool things that augmented reality especially brings to the table is the ability for you to have like objects, like actors that will be available in different platforms. As right now you have also your actors on again on the movie screen, on your PlayStation and on your consoles. You will also have it on your streets, at your place, in your home, and that will allow you to have, I guess, a unique view, not just of pretty much all the storylines that you are following, but also the ability of rethinking space. And that's the cool thing that I think that this technology brings. So by changing the meaning of space, we pretty much what we're doing is redefining how we use it. So if I want to like redefine it and do like, for instance, a music concert, and I have someone like I can choose from a catalog of artists, and I have a music concert right there in my living room, and transforming my living room into a music concert that can be provided, on request, is something that right now is not available, but it will be in a short while, maybe 2 years time. And that's going to be huge, because then we will be able then to connect with that prior to the concert, and maybe after a big concert, and we will be able to connect with the band, or keeping up, for instance, with the band while they arrive at stage using VR headsets. And that actually already happened with Nausea Live last year. So my 2 cents is just that these two technologies are just, again, as João said, and also Paul, they pretty much, Eduardo too, that pretty much these are new tools, so they add on. And the promise and the potential is so big that if you want to throw in, for instance, like artificial intelligence and artificial characters, like for instance the influencer Little Michaela and that kind of thing, what's going to happen is that through these technologies we will start having and establishing relationships with artificial characters, like for instance what we had with Microsoft Office's Clippy. We had our Clippy, and now people might have other characters with which they will interact, and that will probably start telling them and interacting with them, telling them stories and interacting with them in a way that they feel it's helpful. So I think that it's transforming.
And not only that, we are, as we are talking about the technology, I think that the technology is not only helping the production of new transmedia pieces, but it's coming back to the production of the movies. For example, yesterday I was reading about a new production from Disney. It's called Mandalorian, where they are using a kind of a augmented reality, but instead of using for example, chroma key as the back of the images, they are using a huge panel of LED to simulate deserts and scenes that were not over there. So this is technology coming back to the cinema, coming back to the movie that was used in game production, in VR or AR production. That's it. That's the move forth and back of technology and content that can be seen in those two industries. And it's very good for both of them.
Yeah. Disney is certainly the one of very well prepared to the new steps. Disney,
yeah, great.
Absolutely. Speaking with my my mute button on. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, we have some questions also on the channel. I'm actually not following up, but now I am.
Anezio actually
Came back.
answered one of those. So let me just check. So Bruno was saying he agrees with you, Anezio, and his case is, how do you understand transmedia? And Luis, can you redefine the story narrative?
You mean redefine the story? No, not exactly redefine the story narrative. So pretty much what it allows you is to complement and to increase your knowledge regarding one story narrative, or actually for you to even understand the story narrative itself. So having like this multi-channel approach where you need as a user to interact with the storyline at a different level and in different channels allows you to not just understand all the notions. So, for instance, for most of the DC comic movies that you see, for you to actually understand them, and you need to read the comics first. And for you to understand some of the comics, you need to actually read other comics, and that will allow you to also play some games better. So overall, I think that it's this multitude, when we talk transmedia, is pretty much this, and how does virtual reality and augmented reality add on top of this? So they are, again, a new level that, and a new technique, a new tool that allows for pretty much what all of our speakers said, but at a given point in time, they will also allow us to go one step further, I think, and to interact and to, pretty much glue the stories directly into the world and paint the world with digital stories in a way that they allow us to interact with them physically and through augmented reality. And that will, transform also what right now you have. Because right now you have, at the movies, you have a viewer. And what we're talking about is having a user. Right, so I think that more and more we are demanding ourselves as individuals to become users. So we are really not. Actually, this is something that I have been taking some time to think, because it really is becoming more and more clear that we are not comfortable with just seeing stuff. We want to act. As consumers, and my work is a marketing job, so I am also very looking into that. And as consumers, we are very focused right now, not just on viewing, but also on knowing what we can do about it. At the same level, when we're consuming and when we're reading stories, we also want to participate, and that's why you have so many. The gaming industry continuously booming, right? And you have so many other stuff like esports, like so many other things that you, Thiago, know much better than me. All of those are right now growing at a pace that, you don't see that. You have, like, for instance. Oh, I'm sorry. And now I have an issue here. and it's done. Okay. Okay. So, for instance, the issue of you having, for instance, that concert on Fortnite. Yeah, it's a great transmedia example, because suddenly you have. I'm sorry. I'll be back in a short while. Just a minute. Sorry.
I'm gonna pick up on that. I don't know what you are going to say, Luis, but I'm gonna try to pick up on that. So Fortnite and Travis Scott. For me, it was a great way to showcase the concert, because you're using the same game mechanics. If I recall correctly, you had teams trying to secure the area of the show, and there was this massive representation of Travis Scott, the artist, and all this sort of psychedelia elements to the show, which clearly shows that you don't need to be confined to the same physical laws that you have in your life away from keyboard that you can do online. In my company, we have a social network as well. It's called Evic Live, and we also do shows. Like we're gonna have a new artist this week. We're featuring a bunch of artists, and we have venues where we showcase their work and represent all their tags or whatever we want to feature, and that's, I think it's a great way for you to send out your content, especially in a situation where musicians are unable to do what
they usually do.
The thing is, unless you're Madonna or some other big artist in terms of revenue, most of the times the majority of income you have is by doing live shows. I speak that out of personal experience. And the thing is that now that there's no chance for artists to do live shows, so where do they get that revenue? Because that's really hard, because that's a lot of money, not only from the artists, but also from the road crews. There's tour bus drivers, there's stage technicians, there's a lot of professionals that currently don't have anything to do because you cannot have shows. So that's a big thing that we need to look at in terms of a real social problem, because up until now we have been doing the same thing and it worked, but now we have a big constraint in our hands and we cannot do anything about it. So we need to reinvent ourselves, and that's really hard.
And about this, Thiago, this question from Bruno is very interesting, because we are suffering from this problem by doing those virtual meetings. Because, for example, Laval Virtual, where we had almost 1,000 people connected at the same time, they created beaches and soccer fields and auditoriums and spaces to make people feel that they were in a real event. But is this really what we're looking for in a virtual event? We are looking for the same things in a virtual event that we used to have in real life, and that's in transmedia production. There is a huge mess, a huge confusion about transmedia and crossover production, because transmedia does not mean that we're producing the same content or the same cut in different medias. We can have the same baseline, the same base history, but different cuts in different medias and different platforms. And this is what we're saying about this new life. We don't know if the virtual gigs, the virtual shows, should be the same way that the real life one is, you see. And this is something that we have to figure out. I think that nobody knows the answer. I was in a meeting a few days ago with 20 people that were developing new events in VR and new environments for VR events, virtual events. And this is the main question. What we are looking for, we don't know, but how long we are willing to change, to try to do something new, or we are willing to wait till COVID gets away and come back to real life. Do we want to change it, or we are just doing because we have to, and then we will get back to real life again?
I think there's not going to be a go back to. I think we've gone way out of that. So what I do think is that what's going to happen is, and we seem to have lost Eduardo.
Yeah.
And he's back.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is we'll have both, at least in my opinion. I mean, I don't know, right? But we'll probably have both. Which I sort of segued on Travis Scott and Fortnite. I don't know if you want to add something on that. I was mainly telling about how they move from like your average concert stage and stuff to something that's way out of proportion with all the psychedelic effects and all that, and using the game mechanics to showcase that and how
that's exactly it. So it's a great concept and a great example of how you having multiple platforms add on to the story that you're passing on, and it's ongoing. So now you can actually see the concept on YouTube. So you can actually go there and you can keep on relating with the story itself. So yeah, overall, I think that there are a lot of opportunities, but getting back to what's needed to push forward, and then maybe I'll drop this as an open question to the three of you. So what do you think that we as, well, pretty much not just the association, but we as a community, what can we do to accelerate the content creation regarding these specific platforms? Because right now, one of the issues that I find, and pretty much as Paulo depicted, and also Eduardo, it's that there is this need for us to showcase what the platform allows, what we can do. So in that sense, what needs to appear, what needs to happen, so that this becomes, let's say, much more common, so that people kind of start relating much more with this technology. And I kind of drop this to all of our guests, starting maybe with Eduardo, that was the first one also to talk.
Okay. I think that we need to create like special moments. Like, you're talking about, concerts and going to the movies, right? That's always something special. You probably remember like a great movie you saw on a cinema, or a great concert that you've been to. I think that we need to start to involve more emotionally with digital and virtual contents. Luis said that maybe in 2 years' time we're going to be able to watch a concert in our homes, right, in our living rooms. But to me, going to a concert is much more than watching the show itself. It's meeting friends, drinking beer. You have the whole atmosphere. So I don't think that we need to recreate that sometimes, because we can't. I think we need to create a new experience that actually resonates with us. In my research, and that's of course I'm studying nonfiction and news. I think it's very important how the stories affect the viewers, because can immersive content be like a tool to bring people together? Everybody doesn't matter if in Europe or in Brazil or in the States, we are so separated by politics and by views of the world. Can immersive content touch us in a different way, that we can see the world through somebody else's eye? I think that's important. So to me, every time I think about a project, I think in this bigger meaning of the project, and if we can create more projects that actually resonates with the public, I think that's a step forward.
Perfect. João, what do you think?
Okay, it's not an easy question, and let's say one thing, that we really create things to imagine to cinema, then you try to adapt it to augmented reality. That was the huge theme of the things, or to virtual reality. Then we create things for a catalog in a museum, and then we pass it to augmented reality. The real challenge, and I was hearing Luis, and there's one thing. The language that we talk in augmented reality is different from the cinema. Even the dialogues, because we are with someone in front of us. So we say you, and we don't say we don't talk to the other side. When we work in augmented reality, we know there's someone there. We are not one, we are two, or if there's anyone in augmented reality, we are three. So that's involving. That's the transmedia. One of the questions of transmedia. And what happens is that, first of all, I think the argument is the writers of cinema and other projects must start to think this language in this way and try to do things that really are different from to augmented reality or to virtual reality or to other things. Is really think a little further. I know that Paul is very aware with this, and we were talking about in Five Hands. It's a meeting for young writers and writers, cinema writers, and it was very interesting. Because of this, we must write things different. We must create things different. And when we have some offer to people, real offers for different tastes and different publics, I think with some help and with some pressure to try it, I think we'll get a lot of people starting to use these devices, use this way of these things, and we'll get very, very far with this. So instead, I used to say, instead of trying to change the rules, and the rules is that the media are all changing, and all media are not now new media, and instead of trying to get more things from the medias before, let's try to make good things with the new media. And that's a challenge. And that's a challenge for Academy, that's a challenge for advertising, creatives, that's a challenge for everybody, is to try to transform this new thing in the very, very good thing, as good as the other one in the past. I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is always fun to talk when no one's listening. Paul, and what are your thoughts on this? What can be done by pretty much all of us to allow for the creators, the directors, the students, pretty much everyone to create more VR and AR content that can relate us to new stories or to the stories that are pretty much all around us?
No, what I think is that have the opportunities to do it. No, the ways to have the opportunity to do it works, and this it's through the ways to of some institutes, some academies, some institutions who could join together to project one something. And I suppose that here accompanying all the experience that we have in short movies, in small ways to do it with and this is the connection between the productions, the producers who are open to new experiences, and for that, what technical situations we need, what cameras we need, what and the help of the technicians of the VR with the people of the production and of the directors and of course with the screenwriters, as is a special language for each one, and it must study, and this is and for that is I suppose that if we have meetings for the writings in special for these situations, and also some festivals, we have some special sessions for the experience that we have. I suppose that of course it will be helpful if it will be helpful if the Portuguese Institute have some tender special for these experiences. That is a way for new techniques. Why not? Why not? They don't have one tender for 2-3 films short experience for that. That is a situation that some association could contact the Portuguese Institute and say, well, we need some this, we need some, and that is for the future, because it's
absolutely, it's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
I have an interesting fact of here. In Brazil, a huge part of the producers of immersive contents came from the movie sector. We have a lot of people coming from sound design, working for specific immersive development. We have people from shooting area, from cameras. We have people from post-production. They are looking for VR, AR, and XR as a new media that has come to stay, and they are interested in learning and developing and looking what is possible to do.
Yeah.
Cool. We're pretty much closing down our time. Just two things before we leave it. Well, I just wanted to say that there was a question that was, since it's the last one, I think we still have time. This question is for Paulo. Being that in VR you can only look around you and you cannot move, how do you see this being used in feature-length film?
Tell me please again, because I don't understand.
So since in VR, or in at least in a way that you do not want to move without the spectator move, because that will cause motion sickness. Since ideally you should not move when you're watching a movie in VR, what do you think are the challenges for a full feature movie? So like say, if you cannot move and you can just transition from one point of view to another, what would be the best way to create a full feature VR movie?
But well, I suppose that I don't know. As I understand, there are some experience of around spheric, and that this is a situation that must have some share. We don't move, but the share could round, no, and could accompany. I suppose that with social distance, because you not, but eventually, I suppose that could be a situation that, of course, with the moving of the chair and the rounding, and I suppose that could, but only the experience. I suppose that a studio, and we could do the experiences and show, and if we do 2-3 experience each year, we could go around, and
okay, it's a good idea. And one thing that we forgot to mention, since we're talking about transmedia, and we forgot to mention the Black Mirror episode Bandersnatch, which for me was a good or a breath of fresh air in terms of creating new content for streaming platforms, even though this has been around for like ages, ever since the Fighting Fantasy books up until now. but it was great to see that hey, we can still do this, especially for a streaming platform that usually delivers passive content, whereas in an experience like Bandersnatch, and I believe there was another one for a while. I never watched that, but I've read about some other thing in Netflix that used similar mechanics. You can in some way participate in the action of the film.
Yeah, and Netflix could be a good partner in the future, because they are beginning to buy, for example, some cinemas in the States, as you know.
Yeah.
And if they, for example, we have in the now a tender with Netflix in the Portuguese Institute for writing of series and documentaries, for example. It's a first step of Netflix in Portugal. Okay, then, and why not in the future? I know they are interested in going in the next step, and it's interesting to see. And Netflix is one of the companies who are lucky with this COVID thing.
Yeah, true.
There's actually one new movie, interactive movie on Netflix. Let me just show you which one.
The new one, okay, didn't know that.
Yeah, you see, Kim Schmidt versus the Reverend. I think it's just launched, so I haven't seen it yet. This is a brand new movie, so maybe now we have things to do later tonight.
Well, at least for those who are in countries that have it, because sometimes that's a
yeah, and we haven't talked about interactive, but it's a good thing also.
Yeah.
And I remember always an experience that I have 20-something years ago with a game called Yugo, and I do the production of this each day in the Portuguese TV.
Oh, really? It was you?
And the young people are gaming with these phones.
Yeah. We had it in Brazil too.
But it's a fantastic experience that I have for 2 or 3 years each day. Yugo. Yeah.
I still remember the dialogue.
Everyone does. Yeah.
So I think we're getting way too close to our finishing time. So I'll just pass along the word to Luis, and we'll do our evangelizing process of trying to say why we are the good guys, why Gerardo is the good and why everyone will become sexier if they become our associates. So Luis, it's up to you.
Yeah, well,
No pressure.
It's exactly that. I think you
This is the
summarized
way
it
where
pretty
we
well.
go out. We run away. Okay. No.
No, it's just like 3 or 4 minutes regarding the VRAR Association. So one of the major things that I think pretty much everyone that came to a meetup or to an event and then in any way related to the VRARA in Portugal and pretty much all around is that we are not not closed. So it's an open association, and the whole point is to promote and to leverage an ecosystem that is blooming right now. So it's not like a very consolidated market where everyone is like trying to get ahead. No, we're actually cooperating in a way to create the standards that will make our lives easier, better, or harder in the coming future. And that's why it's so important that we relate. So the VRAR Association, in that sense, well, of course, takes on members, but pretty much what we do is for the whole community. And pretty much what we state here, that we want to accelerate anyone's growth, knowledge, and connections. Well, that is value. That values for and it's aimed not just at members and non-members. And we firmly believe that at a given point in time, whenever they feel that they want to, well, go one step further, they can always choose the membership and join in. So at this point right now, we have as members more than 4,300 companies, brands, schools, to an amount of 28K professionals. And we are pretty much all over the world. So we have this cool map here that showcases that. So right now, it's very much focused on the US and Europe, although also in Asia you have, as you see, some chapters. So overall, what we're doing, sorry for jumping. So getting back to the numbers. So what we're doing is actually trying to foster knowledge from all these areas, from all these geographies, and get like vertical industries groups or committees to create knowledge in the form of reports and in the form of webinars, pretty much like this one, but focused on one very specific vertical. So we have a Slack. So this Slack allows us, all of us, to communicate. Right now we have more than 3,000 people always connected on Slack, and that's really cool, because then if you have any issue, any topic, you can just go in, jump in, and talk with someone that can help you on topics that range from how does this programming script work to I have this, for instance, I have this project, I want to like port it to Thai LND, to Thai or to Indonesian. So how can I do that? And an Indonesian or a Thai programmer or a VR AR developer or studio can help you do that. So besides that, we also have training, we also have podcasts, webinars like these. We also have several discounts in events that in the last 2 months proved really useful. And we also have equipment rentals. So whenever we need like added equipment, like for projects or maybe for specific project deliveries, we can rent them from the association. So pretty much we have several levels. This is something that you can also get from the VRARA website. So these are some of the featured members and sponsors. As you see, there are like really big companies, and then you have not so big companies. So we're talking about, it's the same in Portugal. So you have like really big companies in the ecosystem right now in Portugal doing VR and AR. And then you have companies of 2-3 people also developing their work here. So that's also really cool. Here you have then a more thorough, in-depth knowledge of the kind of value that we create in the VRARA towards the members and pretty much the whole community. And the last part of this presentation that I wanted to drop is for you to actually subscribe or register for the upcoming VRAR Global Summit. So you can just go to vrarglobalsummit.com. We're going to drop the link on the YouTube chat, and you can register for free to attend this really, really, really huge conference that's going to, well, take over from June 1st to June 3rd, the VRAR community globally. So it's really going to be great. I had a sneak peek on the, well, you already have the speakers on the website, and you will see the kind of, the kind of topics, you will see the kind of topics that are going to be there. I also know that, well, this week the schedule will be up. So you are more than welcome just to drop by. Also, if you do drop by, please go, we will be having one Portugal room during one of the days. Probably it's going to be during the second or the third. We're still defining which one, but this to say that in that room we are going to have specific talks being done by pretty much Portuguese related speakers, maybe speakers that actually came to Portugal, speakers that are actually helping other companies to come to Portugal or to come to Europe through Portugal. And that I think is going to be, well, really cool. And we're also going to have some good news to share. So yeah, overall, that was, I think, in that note, I think we are now ready to, well, say goodbye then, Tiago.
Okay, so if there's nothing, there is something else. We really want everyone to follow us and at least subscribe to our newsletter, because it has a lot of cool stuff, especially the data for next webinars, or we do eventually send those and other important information, especially now that we are going to have the online summits. I think it's a good way for people. So if you can, Nancy, we're gonna show a QR.
It's already there while you're talking.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Wow. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to once again thank our wonderful guests. Thank you for showcasing your work, for sharing your experience. It's always very valuable, and it's always a pleasure to count on your help to help us make this webinar. So thank you. Luis, Anésio, anything else?
One thing, follow us, please keep following us. We are preparing a series of webinars. We will have at least one each month. And thank again for everybody for accepting our invitation. And we are coming back for more.
Yes. Meanwhile, we're keeping up the webinars while we are not able to meet in real life.
This is real.
We hope, well, right now it is, right? But I guess that even afterwards, when that is possible, and because, well, everything pretty much changed, starting with us, I think that we will keep on having also the webinars. But the biggest webinar, again, will be, the next one will be at the VIR Global Summit. So please, be sure to register, and and if you have any questions regarding it, you are more than welcome to just buzz. And thank you all, Eduardo, João, Paul. It was really cool.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
See ya.